A tornado warning is in effect for Lincoln County and Washington County, Colorado until 5:30 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. That warning is radar-indicated golf ball-sized hail is also possible in the warned area. Last Chance, Lindon, Anton, and the Genoa Corridor are all inside that tornado warning right now. A supercell in southwestern Nebraska right now has tornado potential through 8 p.m. Mountain Time tonight. That same 72-hour pattern puts 942,959 people inside a severe weather zone by Friday afternoon. And behind all of this is an El Nino signal reshaping your weather through fall 2026. Stick with me, the 5-minute mark is where Friday's forecast gets specifically worth your attention. At the very end, the full summer through fall El Nino outlook tells you what is coming. I pulled up Mesoscale Discussion 821 30 minutes ago, and the language stopped me cold. Isolated supercell through 7 to 8 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time accompanied by large hail and tornado potential. That is not routine severe language. That is the SPC saying a storm is organizing right now. Right now, the SPC has issued Mesoscale Discussion 821 covering southwestern Nebraska and northeast Colorado. That discussion is valid until 7:15 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time and it concerns severe thunderstorm watch 239. Most probable peak tornado intensity from this mesoscale discussion 85 to 110 miles per hour. Most probable peak hail size 1.50 to 2.50 inches between golf ball and baseball size. An isolated supercell near Limon, Colorado has the longest access to unstable inflow right now. That supercell is moving eastward toward the Kansas border near Goodland through 7 to 8 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Strengthening 850 millibar flow is enlarging the low-level hotograph that is tornado fuel increasing. Simultaneously, Mesoscale Discussion 819 covers southeastern Colorado, southwestern Kansas, and the Texas-Oklahoma panhandles. Watch 238 is active. That cluster may organize with severe gusts through 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. CAPE of 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram in peak afternoon heating is well fueling those storms right now. Most probable hail from Watch 238 is 1.00 to 1.75 inches tornado, up to 90 miles per hour possible. Mesoscale Discussion 818 concerns central and south-central Texas with damaging wind and hail potential. A bowing storm cluster is approaching the Austin vicinity with the highest locally severe risk. MLCAPE of 1,500 to 2,500 joules per kilogram in central Texas is supporting large hail and gusty winds. A separate zone of greater severe potential is noted near Del Rio where instability is increasing. Drop your city in the comments now and I will be back tonight with your local update. The updated SPC Day 1, slight risk covers 167,474 people across the Central High Plains. Sterling, Fort Morgan, Lamar, and Rayton are all inside the slight risk boundary right now. The marginal risk grabs 14.19 million people including San Antonio, Colorado Springs, and Norfolk. A 2% tornado probability is posted for 238,585 people in the Colorado-Nebraska-Kansas corridor. Strong to isolated severe storms have also developed across North Carolina and southern Virginia. Richmond, Raleigh, Charlotte, and the Outer Banks are all in that zone through early evening. Here is what I need you to hear. Friday is on a completely different level than today. The Day 2 pattern covering 942,959 people is the story of this week, and I mean that. There is one combination of ingredients in the Friday SPC discussion that changed how I read this week. Devastating to slight risk for Friday covers 51,810 square miles larger than Louisiana. Lubbock, Amarillo, Plainview, Altus, and Pampa are all inside the Friday slight risk core zone. The marginal risk on Friday covers 21.98 million people, OKC, Nashville, Atlanta, Wichita, Louisville. MLCAPE of 1,500 to 2,500 joules per kilogram over western Texas into the panhandle is serious afternoon fuel Friday. Deep layer shear around 30 knots allows supercell storm modes to organize in that environment Friday. The dry line sharpens Friday afternoon from the Texas South Plains into the Edwards Plateau. Supercells fire along that dry line Friday afternoon. The predominant hazard is large hail. Those storms grow upscale into an MCS Friday evening, spreading wind and hail into western Oklahoma. Amarillo, you are inside the core slight risk supercell development in your area looks likely Friday. Lubbock and Plainview, large hail is the expected primary outcome for your Friday afternoon window. Childress, Elk City, and Wichita Falls, you're all inside the Friday slight risk boundary. The Day 2 discussion also highlights a major secondary threat from the Gulf Coast into the Ohio Valley. A 25 to 40 knot low-level jet stretches from the central Gulf Coast north to the Ohio River. That low-level jet corridor is where brief tornadoes appear possible from eastern Mississippi through Ohio. Effective storm relative helicity of 100 to 200 meters squared per second is forecast along that axis. Eastern Mississippi, western Alabama, middle Tennessee, and the Ohio Valley Friday is your window. Louisville, Bowling Green, and Lexington, a brief tornado cannot be ruled out for Friday evening. Dale in Cincinnati Dale, Friday overnight through the Tennessee and Ohio valleys is your window. Texas Panhandle through central Oklahoma, drop your city below, and I will watch your radar Friday. Saturday, May 23rd, a marginal risk covers 12.6 million people across south and central Texas. Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Corpus Christi, and Laredo are all inside Saturday's marginal risk. Thunderstorms develop early Saturday across the Edwards Plateau and advance east and southeast. Dew points in the 60s to low 70s with steep lapse rates yield strong afternoon instability Saturday. Deep layer shear enhancement across South Texas Saturday aids hail production and damaging wind potential. A second zone on Saturday runs from the Rayton Mesa into the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. Around 30 knots of deep layer shear supports potential supercell storm modes there Saturday afternoon. Sandra Phelps in Amarillo, Sandra, Saturday afternoon is still a weather-aware window for your area. Now here is the bigger picture connecting everything, and this is where it gets genuinely interesting. The Nino 3.4 index is at positive 0.7 to 0.8. That is weak El Nino territory. From here, a moderate to strong El Nino is likely heading into summer and fall of 2026. Warm equatorial Pacific water temperatures are the hallmark of El Nino, and they are clearly there. The Pacific Meridional Mode is also positive that enhances the subtropical jet and Gulf moisture. Think of the subtropical jet as a moisture pipeline. El Nino runs that pipeline wider and longer. That pipeline is delivering repeated rounds of Gulf moisture into the southern tier right now. High pressure building across the Great Lakes creates a horseshoe pattern: wet south, dry north. Houston, New Orleans, Lake Charles, Jackson, Chattanooga, Nashville, and Birmingham are all in that horseshoe. Through 7 a.m. on June 1st, the rainfall forecast heavily favors the Gulf Coast and Tennessee Valley. This rainfall is heading into areas still locked in severe, extreme, and exceptional droughts. The drought monitor shows that same horseshoe of drought sitting exactly where the moisture is going. Every inch of this rainfall is meaningful for landscapes that have been drought-ridden all spring. In June, the Western Rockies face a very warm, hot, and steamy stretch ahead. East of the Mississippi into the eastern U.S. temperatures trend near to slightly below normal for June. After Father's Day, the monsoon begins pumping from Mexico up into the Four Corners region. And here is the severe weather concern to mark on your calendar: derecho risk is building. A derecho is a fast-moving line of storms producing widespread damaging winds, hail, and flash flooding. The derecho pattern sets up in the second half of June and intensifies further in July and August. Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, hear this for summer. July into August is the time frame to watch for one or two major derechos this summer season. Western Pennsylvania, you are also in that zone. Orange means possible, red means most likely. A derecho in that corridor can knock out power for hundreds of thousands in just a few hours. This is a pattern that historically favors derecho development, not a single event prediction. As El Nino strengthens into fall 2026, its influence on the weather pattern becomes more pronounced. September through November, the subtropical jet stays persistent. Moisture continues piling into the south. Southern Canada and the northern plains face a drier fall as the active storm track stays south. The official hurricane outlook calls for 9 to 13 named storms and 4 to 6 hurricanes this season. 1 to 3 of those could be major hurricanes Category 3 or stronger this Atlantic season. El Nino's wind shear suppresses Atlantic hurricane formation below to near normal season expected. The most likely threat is homegrown Gulf or Western Atlantic systems near the Carolinas. A cold front dropping south into warm Gulf water temperatures can spin up a tropical system quickly. The East Pacific is a different story. El Nino makes that basin hyperactive for the whole season. Above normal East Pacific tropical activity is expected with potential recurving systems into the U.S. in fall. Here is what you need to do right now based on where you are in this setup. Southwestern Nebraska and the Colorado-Kansas border, tonight's supercell threat is active right now. Texas Panhandle through western Oklahoma Friday afternoon is your severe weather window this week. Have your shelter plan locked in before noon Friday. Large hail at 1.5 inches needs no warning. Central and South Texas Saturday carries a real marginal risk, so stay weather aware all weekends. Gulf Coast and Southeast, the wet and flood-prone pattern continues through Memorial Day and beyond. Here is the genuine good news, and there is real good news in this forecast. The drought monitor shows severe to exceptional drought in the same regions getting this rainfall. El Nino's moisture pipeline does not just bring flood risk, it begins erasing months of drought. The El Nino signal is only going to strengthen from here. Its impacts are just getting started. My winter outlook comes out in August when the El Nino story will be even more defined. The numbers that matter tonight, 85 to 110 miles per hour tornado potential and 942, 959 at risk Friday. Drop your city in the comments and tell me what is outside your window right now. Stay heads up and never let a sunny afternoon fool you when there is a watch box nearby. God bless all of you, stay safe, and I will see you in the next updates. The supercell near Limon, Colorado is the one to watch most closely through tonight. Limon is on the eastern Colorado Plains. Flat terrain gives that supercell maximum room to breathe. Goodland, Kansas sits directly in the path of that eastward propagating supercell tonight. Colby and Oakley, Kansas, you're both inside the Watch 239 box and deserve close attention tonight. A low-level hodograph is the oval-shaped wind profile that tells forecasters rotation is increasing. When forecasters say the hodograph is enlarging, they mean tornado potential is actively going up. That is exactly what Mesoscale Discussion 821 is describing for that Nebraska-Colorado supercell right now. The cluster in Mesoscale Discussion 819 has been intensifying the past few hours. That is notable. Near-surface convergence within lee troughing is focused lift. That is what is organizing that cluster. Amarillo and the Oklahoma Panhandle are watching this activity tonight and should stay heads up. The Austin Metro needs to watch radar closely as that Boeing cluster approaches from the west. Gillespie and Llano County residents, a bowing storm segment means wind is the lead hazard. San Antonio, storms approaching from the northwest tonight carry damaging wind as the primary risk. Del Rio area residents, locally greater instability makes that area a secondary concern tonight. The dryline Friday is where the action begins. It is the boundary between dry and moist air. West of the dryline is hot and dry. East of it is warm and loaded with moisture. When the afternoon sun heats that moist air east of the dryline, CAPE builds quickly to dangerous levels. MLCAPE of 2,000 joules per kilogram means a storm updraft has enormous energy available to grow fast and large. That is the environment the SPC is forecasting across western Texas into the southern panhandle Friday. The most favorable overlap of instability and shear sits over western Texas and the panhandle. Lubbock has seen significant hail events in May before Friday has the same ingredients in place. Plainview and Floydada sit in the core supercell zone. Friday afternoon is not outdoor time. Plainview and Floydada sit in that core supercell zone. Friday afternoon is not outdoor time. Elk City, Oklahoma, you are at the eastern edge of that Friday slight risk boundary. Earl out in Lamar, Colorado. Earl, today and Friday are both weather-aware windows for you. Margaret in Oklahoma City, marginal risk on Friday means your evening window still deserves attention. Frank Hollister near Amarillo. Frank, Friday afternoon is your high attention severe weather window. The low-level jet Friday is the critical ingredient for tornado potential in the Ohio Valley. A 40-knot low-level jet at night is what meteorologists call the nocturnal fuel for rotating storms. When that jet strengthens Friday evening, effective shear increases rapidly in eastern Mississippi and Alabama. Birmingham and Huntsville, you're in the marginal risk zone and Friday evening deserves attention. Nashville and Chattanooga, the warm front lifting through Kentucky Friday afternoon touches your area. Bob Simmons in Richmond, Virginia. Bob, your severe weather window runs through this afternoon. La Nina is the opposite of El Nino blue equatorial Pacific water, stronger polar jets. The switch from La Nina to El Nino is one of the most significant pattern shifts in weather. Spending much of the past 2 years in La Nina makes this El Nino arrival a big deal. The positive Pacific Meridional Mode is rare to see alongside developing El Nino. Both are active. That combination is what enhances the subtropical jet beyond what El Nino alone would produce. The flooding rains in southeast Texas right now are directly connected to that PM El Nino combo. Source meteorologists have been pointing to this summer as one worth watching for extreme events. Derecho development is most likely over the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and the Great Lakes. July into August, that is the window when 1 or 2 significant derechos could impact that corridor. A derecho that hits Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, or Cleveland in summer would be a major event. Indianapolis and Columbus are also in the orange zone for summer derecho potential. Mark that calendar. Saharan dust crossing the Atlantic is also suppressing tropical development right now in the main region. Cool sea surface temperatures in the main development region are another suppressing factor this season. The most vulnerable Gulf Coast stretch this season is from the western Atlantic near the Carolinas. A weak front dropping into the warm Gulf can spin up a tropical system within 48 hours. Gulf water temperatures near Florida and the Carolinas are already running well above late May normal. That warm water means any organized convection near the coast has a head start on intensification. The latest U.S. drought monitor shows severe, extreme, and exceptional drought across the southern tier. Deep South Texas, the Texas Panhandle, New Mexico, and the Rockies are all in significant droughts. Every thunderstorm that drops 2 inches of rain on those areas this week is doing drought-busting work. The pattern through June 1st favors above normal rainfall across the same areas that need it most. That is not a common alignment. Usually the drought areas and wet forecasts do not overlap. Charge all your devices tonight. Power outages from severe storms arrive with zero warning. A weather radio with battery backup is the tool that works when everything else goes down. Outdoor workers across the Southern Plains and Texas Panhandle Friday afternoon is not a safe window. Move any loose outdoor gear inside before Friday morning. A Supercell will move it for you otherwise. Send this to anyone you know in Amarillo, Lubbock, or Western Oklahoma before Friday arrives. A personal heads up from someone they trust is worth more than any push notification they will swipe. The subtropical jet will stay active through the summer. This is not a one-week weather story. This El Nino is still early stage. By fall, its impacts will be significantly more pronounced. The summer outlook, the fall outlook, and the hurricane season all point in the same direction. Every update through this holiday weekend will track how this pattern evolves. Stay connected. Notifications on is the only way to catch live updates the moment storm watches or warnings are issued. A very active and fascinating weather season is ahead. Let us track it all together.